So I started off as a jazz pianist primarily and listening to a lot of progressive rock and that kind of music in high school. And my dad is a filmmaker, so I grew up around the arts and around film music. And I have actually scored a few of my dad's films. And so that was I was immersed in music and film and art. And then from there, playing jazz, I kind of got into composition in college and started listening to a lot more classical music and sort of music that crosses a lot of genres between jazz and classical and film and musical theater and opera. So I started getting really eclectic with my musical interests. And then I went to grad school, and then kind of the journey took me to Boulder, where I did my doctorate. I have Norwegian heritage on my mom's side. Technically 1/8 Norwegian, but I really milked that small bit of heritage and was very curious about Norwegian folk music and jazz in Norway. So I went and lived in Norway for a while. I had a Fulbright grant and I lived there for a year. I was studying music, I was gigging and performing on piano, I was composing, and I wrote sort of a capstone piece at the end of my experience there about my great-grandfather, who was Norwegian and who journeyed from Norway all the way to Brooklyn by himself when he was 12 years old. So I wrote a piece that sort of told his story. And ever since then, Norwegian folk music and that kind of Scandinavian influence has always been a part of my music, and I'm kind of proud of that side of my own heritage. So I took a trip to Iceland with my partner about 2 years ago, and we just did a kind of a short tour of the country. And one of the places that we visited was the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, which is in the sort of northwest corner of Iceland. And there's a place there called Helgafell, which is this hill of three wishes. And the story about that place really struck me. And in Iceland in general, there's a lot of this sort of nature and history sort of combined. And that really inspires me. So this hill, when you climb to the top, if you don't look behind you, when you get to the top, supposedly the legend is that you get 3 wishes granted to you. And of course, also a really beautiful view of the fjord. And so that really inspired me for this sort of mythical, kind of mysterious quality of it. And what I ended up doing in this piece is I took a Icelandic folk tune from actually the Middle Ages and fleshed it out and kind of arranged it for the orchestra. And the theme you kind of hear throughout is this open fifths. You hear it in like the brass and the winds, and it sort of dictates a lot of the shape of the piece. And you might notice this sort of medieval or early music feeling to it as well. So I'm working on 2 operas right now. One is for Glimmerglass, and the other one is for Art Song Colorado, which is a shadow puppet opera about wolves and their reintroduction in Colorado. So I write a lot of vocal music, and that's sort of the direction I'm going in, is storytelling through the voice. And so those are sort of my upcoming projects.